What's going on, everybody out there? This is Grand Prix GTP02 here once again, up here at Humble Hyundai here in North Houston, Texas. And today, for y'all's viewing pleasure and entertainment, I am here to introduce to everybody out there one of the last surviving modern day examples of a vehicle to come from one of General Motors' many American fallen flags. What you guys are looking at right now is the 2008 Saturn Aura. Now, for those of you who don't know, Saturn was one of the few brands that went bust in about 2009 to 2010 after GM decided it had way too many brands under its belt. Of course, GM has all of the big names such as Vauxhall, Opel over in the UK and Europe, but then here in the US you have like Chevrolet, GMC, Cadillac, and so on and so forth. But then, of course, you have the subsidiaries that went bust all pretty much at the exact same time. You have like Hummer, Saturn, Saab, Pontiac, and the list goes on and on. So thus, you see vehicles like this running around, but without any main dealers bearing that particular vehicle's brand name. Now, for those of you who also don't know, this was one of the cars that General Motors brought over from its European division to actually try to save the Saturn brand. Much like the Astra that we reviewed not too long ago, this car overseas is branded as a Vauxhall or Opel. Now, I can't remember the exact car that it's actually branded as overseas, but over here, this car went actually under one of two names because you have the Aura, but believe it or not, this car is actually in the exact same specifications, at least underneath, as the Chevrolet Malibu. And the interior actually pretty much looks exactly the same too, and you'll see that here in a bit. But to me, I have always loved the Aura. I love the way it looks, I love the way it drives, I just love the way it feels. It was actually one of the Saturns that I actually would be proud to drive. Now, most people find it kind of weird me saying that because for those of you who know Saturns of olden times, you know they weren't exactly the most reliable cars on the road. That being said, however, there are still some older Saturn vehicles that are still out on the road to this day because Saturn actually did build a few good cars. I mean, not all of them were bulletproof. They had like the twin cam SC series, and they had all of those back in the 90s that still are alive and running to this day. But then, of course, you had those old 1.9 liter single overhead cam four bangers that were known to just blow up at a moment's notice. But this one here is definitely not even close to on the verge of blowing up. And also, to kind of add to that real kind of cool factor, this one here is fully loaded. This one here has every stinking option in the book with the exception of navigation because, like the generation Malibu that went alongside this car, it never came with navigation to even begin with. But this one here is a 2008 Saturn Aura XR 3.6. Now, as far as trim levels went, you could have the Aura in one of two different trims to the best of my recollection. You could have it as the Aura XE, or you could have it as the XR. Now, unlike the Chevrolet Malibu, the Aura was actually available with 4 separate powertrains, 2 available transmissions, but was only available in front-wheel drive. Now, you could have the Aura in 2 available trims, as I said before. You could have the XE and the XR, but the XE was available in both 4 and 6 cylinder variations, and then the XR was only available as a V6. Now, with the XE, you could have a 2.4 liter 4-cylinder with about 170 or so horsepower, but then you could upgrade to the 3.5 liter V6, which was not direct injected, nor was it available with variable valve timing. But then you can have the motor what we have here. This is the 3.6 liter direct injected and variable valve timing equipped V6 that cranks out over 250 horsepower in a front-wheel drive car. Now, unlike the 3.5 liter and 2.4 liter engines, this car also came with a 6-speed shiftable automatic transmission, meaning that it does have a manual shift mode. If you were to opt for the XE with the 3.5 liter V6 or 2.4 liter 4-banger, you'd end up with the old 4-speed automatic. So, the XR 3.6 was definitely the best of the bunch. But on top of that, for those of you who really wanted some fuel efficiency, the Aura was also available as a hybrid, just like the Malibu. But again, in my opinion, I really love the Aura just because of the way it looks. You don't see cars like this very much on the road anymore. And it's kind of sad because I really like the styling of this car. I mean, yes, it's still kind of American. The build quality isn't exactly the greatest in terms of the mid-size family class, but at the same time, it still was a wonderful vehicle for its time. Now, a few quick specs before we actually get on to the rest of this vehicle. This one here is finished in my all-time favorite color to come from General Motors. This is their red jewel tinted clear coat, and it looks absolutely wonderful. When this thing's all polished out, it turns this absolutely beautiful garnet slash kind of ruby color, and it looks absolutely amazing. Now for the XR, if you look up here at the front, you got these chrome and metallic silver painted headlights. These are standard halogen bulbs. Projectors were not available in this car. You do have halogen projector fog lights though, which is kind of nice. No real huge chrome slabs on the front grille. You've got this nice little kind of faux chrome plasticky piece right here at the front with the Saturn badge in the front. But other than that, it really was not, you know, a blingy sort of look at me kind of car. This was one of those ones that if you wanted something stylish and you wanted something somewhat decently reliable, then you got something like this. Now, as far as what the car rides on, I absolutely love this set of wheels. These are painted and machine finished aluminum alloy wheels, which they are, if I can remember the size correctly, these are 18-inch aluminum alloy wheels. Now, you could have smaller ones. I believe you could even get this car with steel wheels with hubcaps if you wanted the XC with the 4-cylinder in it. But as far as adding a little bit of bling appeal, you can't go wrong with these machine finished aluminum alloys. Really, really sets off this car very nice. Now, again, like I said, this is not a blingy car, but as you can see, there are all also small lashings of chrome, like here on the door trim. You got it here on the door handles, and also right here around the window frame. Also up top, you can see you have a shark fin style antenna for satellite radio, and this one here also does have a power sliding and tilting sunroof. So as you can see, even though this was a more basic brand from General Motors, this car still came with quite a fair few options, and I absolutely adore it. Now, aside, one quick last thing. Now, aside from the fact that this car pretty much tells you exactly what it is here on the back, the Aura XR with the 3.6, one of the other ways you can determine whether this car is a 4-banger or a V6 is also, you can see this one here has dual outlet exhaust as well. Now, getting into this vehicle is quite simple. You won't find any push button ignition or anything like that. As you can see, here's the standard keys for the vehicle. This one does have a remote start, and I'll go ahead and insert a separate clip showing you how that works. But aside from all that, that's pretty much as advanced as you're going to get as far as entry into the Aura. Now, this one here, ironically, has not actually had the GM recall taken care of. As you can see, it actually still has the original Saturn key, but it's a pretty typical General Motors key. It's what you'd find on just about every General Motors vehicle that uses a key nowadays, aside from the push button ignition and whatnot. But go ahead and open her up here. And again, aside from the red jewel tinted clear coat that I absolutely adore, this car has a beautiful ebony black leather upholstered interior. Again, the XR being fully loaded, you're going to find leather, you're going to find chrome, you're going to find all sorts of beautiful little blingy and luxurious lashings all over this particular vehicle. Now, as far as the seats and comfort level goes in this car, they are actually quite comfy. They are a bit on the flat side as far as support for your torso, for your waist, things like that. But as far as plushness goes, even with this one being as old as it is and having even less than 100,000 miles, the leather is firm, and it kind of feels like it's firmed up a good bit, especially seeing the fact this car also has heated seats, which that's about the weirdest place for a heated seat control I can think of. But the leather actually has kind of firmed up a little bit. But overall, though, it's very nice and plush, especially here on the bolsters and everything else. You can also see a little bit more bling down here with these Saturn turned aluminum sill plates. And also, being a loaded out car, you're going to find all of the standard powered amenities that you'd expect. You have your power door locks, keyless entry and remote start, power trunk release, your power mirrors way up here in the door pillar, which is kind of out of the way. I mean, it's a little bit of a weird place to reach to be fiddling with your mirrors, and with a switch that small, that also can be a bit fiddly. But aside from that, you also have all your power windows. You have an automatic up and down driver's side window, the rest of your power windows, and also window locks. Moving over to the driver's area, and also just to the left of the steering wheel, you have your instrumentation dimming and also your fog lights, hood release and parking brake down below. You also have a fully leather trimmed 3-spoke steering wheel. It's the exact same one that came out of the Malibu with all of your different functions on it, and also these really odd functioning paddle shifters, and I'll show you how those work here in a second. Now, stepping into the Aura, it's exactly what you'd expect from a mid-size car. I mean, it's not too low, but it's not too high either. It's actually perfect, and you do actually kind of slide into this car quite easily. But as far as the actual driving position itself goes, I mean, it's actually very, very nice. It's a very wonderful place to be. Like I said, the seats are nice and comfy. I really wish I had a little bit more kind of lateral support. Again, I'm not exactly the widest person in the world, but I do have a good bit of movement around my chest area and stuff. That really doesn't kind of bode well for me, because if I go around the corner, the last thing I want to do is be sliding off against the B-pillar or whatever. One of the ways you can differentiate some of the areas of this car are even the smallest details, like the gauge cluster here, for example. As you'll see, the outer rings are this gold color with white numerics and a red backlit illumination screen down below. If this were like a Pontiac, you'd probably find red numerics, and if this were just the generic Chevrolet Malibu, it would have kind of a aquamarine color or teal colored edge to that. You can also see the gauge cluster is very simple. You got 3 different gauge pods. You got your tachometer, speedometer, and also your fuel and engine temperature. Then of course you have your mileage and everything else located down here below. Now, I did say that this car has these really weird paddle shifters, and if you notice, each one of these is labeled with a plus here on the top. Normally you would expect one paddle to shift down and the other one to shift up, but they deployed this system even up to cars like the Corvette, which I really find annoying, because on either one of the paddles you can push forward to shift up a gear, but you can pull back on either one to shift down. So if you're a bit like me, you like to drive, you know, kind of like a sports car, you'd expect this one, you pull that one to shift down. But let's say you're trying to shift up a gear, you'd have to be pushing with your thumb on this one and pulling down on this one. It's a little cattywampus to me. Now, as far as the audio controls and everything else, very simple to understand. You have your info button, cruise control functions, and reset button, and you also have your hands-free radio functions along with voice command for the system and stuff down here. Of course, up on the mirror here, you also have your OnStar command and everything else. You also have your HomeLink garage door system and your power tilting and sliding sunroof. Now, as far as the center console goes, this is actually not the hardest thing to understand. Like I said, these cars rarely ever came with anything close to navigation in it. As a matter of fact, I can't ever recall a Malibu ever having navigation in it, as far as like my mind has ever been concerned with cars like this. The newer Malibus, of course, we know they have MyLink and whatnot, but everything else, they just basically had the same radio face in it. Very simple to understand. All your preset radio stations, equalizer, your audio button to allow you to adjust like bass, treble, fade, all that kind of stuff. Your power button right here in the center, which also turns into your volume knob, your band, seek track buttons, CD, and of course you have the small little auxiliary input located in the bottom right hand corner of the display. Now, this one did not come with a dual zone climate control system, nor can I ever recollect a Malibu or Aura ever coming with this. You of course got your fan speed over here on the left. It also has automatic air conditioning. You just turn it all the way to the left. That introduces automatic AC. No buttons or anything like that. You don't have to push any of the knobs to do anything like that. You have your maximum AC, air conditioning recycling, drawing in the air from outside, your rear defroster, and also your temperature controls. Then of course you have automatic climate control or climate zones. So you have your face and your feet, your feet and a defrost, and then just your defroster. So very simple to actually set up. Now, like I said, this car came with 3 separate transmissions depending on which one you got. With the 3.6, like I said, we have the 6-speed automatic transmission. Very smooth. It does whine a little bit because it's an electronically controlled transmission, but then again, I'm used to a lot of transmissions that are like that. Pull it all the way back to the M. That's when you're going to introduce the paddle shifters up here on the steering wheel. Other than that, you just leave it in drive, and it's a smooth, comfortable car. as always. But speaking of smooth, let's go ahead and crank that butter smooth V6 into life. And actually, if I remember correctly, this is also the same motor that they then put into the Chevrolet Impala around 2013 or so, and it actually also went into the Cadillac CTS. So quite a lot of vehicles use this 3.6 liter engine. But of course, typical place for the GM ignition key. It's up here on the dash. You stick it in. As you can see, this one has done very few miles, 75,593 miles, and it's still in very clean condition. And also, as you can see, the golden sort of numerics hidden around here, but you turn the key and you get that absolutely butter smooth startup of that 3.6 liter V6. Now, as far as the steering goes, it's not actually too heavy. It is a bit spring loaded, but one of the things I cannot get over is the size of the steering wheel. I mean, it is like steering with a giant ship's wheel. It's just that big. The actual cornering in the vehicle, it's not the greatest thing in the world. I mean, it does take a few good locks to actually get it to turn pretty sharply. But other than that, it's, I mean, relatively the same steering wheel that you'll find in the Corvette, you'll find it in the Malibu, you'll find it in the Cobalt. Like I said, GM used kind of a parts bin method with a lot of their cars, and the Aura is really no exception. That being said, though, you do have these nice little grip extensions up here at about, I don't know, 10 and 2. At 9 and 3, you've got these nice little silver accents. These can wear because they're plastic pieces, but as far as everything else goes, it's nice and comfortable and exactly what you'd expect from a Chevrolet, or in this case, a Saturn. I know I keep referring back and forth between Saturn and Chevrolet, but again, it's basically the same car. Now, as far as the stereo system goes, it's actually not too bad.
The band quit playing. Everyone. That's what the other guys.
French?
A premium Pacific crab meat.
But anyways, as you can see, it's all relatively simple. Now, like I said, I'm gonna go over the manual mode one more time. You just grab the transmission, put it all the way back to manual, just like this. As you can see, the door is open, so we'll go ahead and close it. As you can hear, it actually closes with a pretty solid thunk too, just like that. Now, as you can see, the gauge is displaying the manual mode. Now, if I just flick one of the paddles here, manual 3, and that's about as high as it goes when the car is stationary. So as you can see, you push forward, changes the gear, pull back, it changes it down. So relatively simple. Like I said, you're not even gonna find a backup camera on this car, so not even on the auto dimming mirror, not even down here or anything like that. I'll go ahead and turn the AC up. It is getting a tiny bit warm in here. This is actually one of the warmer days that we're already starting to have here in the Houston area. As you can see, it's 79, almost 80 degrees outside, so it feels absolutely wonderful. But speaking of absolutely wonderful, let's go ahead and take a peek under the hood. So pull this rather awkwardly placed hood latch here, roll down the window, and again, you're not going to find any kind of beeps or chimes when you close the door, but it does close with a nice comfortable thunk. Now, like I said before, the Aura could come with one of 4 available powertrains depending on which trim level you picked. The XE, of course, came with the 2.4 liter inline 4, which was the Ecotec engine. And then, of course, you have the sort of Impala and Pontiac G6 sourced 3.5 liter non-direct injected V6. And then, of course, you had the hybrid powertrain, which came a little bit later on in the lineup. But then, of course, you get to the engine that we have here. When you raise the hood of this particular Aura XR, you find General Motors corporate 3.6 liter double overhead cam 24 valve V6. This engine has also been equipped with the standard direct fuel injection system, and as you can see by the engine cover, it also comes with variable valve timing. The numbers are pretty decent for this size motor. It's 252 horsepower and 251 pound-feet of torque for the Aura. Now, they then tuned this motor a little bit later on. They put it in the Cadillac CTS, they put it in the previous generation Chevrolet Impala and a few others. It produced around 300 or so horsepower in those cars, but this was the earlier generation of this motor before they went and tweaked it a little bit for the newer generation vehicles. As far as fuel economy goes, you can run it on regular or premium unleaded gasoline. I believe GM recommends you run this motor on premium gas. You're going to get about 17 to 19 miles per gallon in the city and about 26 to 28 on the highway, depending on how light your foot may be. All in all, though, it's a beautiful power plant and absolutely butter smooth once you get it out on the road. And as you can see, one advantage of this car is it also has a gas shock to hold up the hood. A lot of cars of this generation came with just a simple prop rod like you'd find on a lot of other vehicles. But overall, an absolutely awesome sounding power plant, and definitely one of the best. Well, at least one of the best to me. I always love these 3.6 liter V6s, aside from General Motors V8s that they put in their muscle cars and whatnot. So now that we've had a good look under the hood, we've had a good look at what's directly in front of the driver and so on, let's go ahead and explore the rest of the Aura. Now, being a mid-size family sedan, you're going to have space for 5 people comfortably. Of course, with these leather seats, it actually makes things a lot better. As far as aesthetics go, and the same kind of can be said for the dashboard, the upper part of the door panel here is actually padded. It does have a little bit of give to it. I mean, it's not like plush leather, but then that's also accented by this metallic gray or kind of silverish piece right here. Then you have these sort of plasticky-like materials down here on the lower part of the door panel. But overall, nice and solid build materials. I love the way this car just fits together. It really is not, it may be a partsman car, but it's really not the worst of the bunch. Now, getting into the back seat, and I don't believe in this car this back seat was ever used, because I sit down in here and I just sink into these leather seats. I mean, they are just so soft to sit on, and granted, the sun can take its toll. I mean, as you can kind of see, I'm not sure how well you can see that, the graining in the leather is starting to show through. It is a little bit worse for wear when the sun hits it, but as you can see, this car actually came pretty well loaded. You actually have radio controls here in the back seat. So if you have some headphones, you plug them in to either side of this port, so either one of your backseat passengers can enjoy their music. You got nice little cup holders back here in the back, and you also have a couple hidden up under the tray in the front. Also, dual map pockets in the back, and as you can see, a massive indentation located in the back of these seats, which adds a lot of extra room. As you can see, I can pretty much fit my whole hand between my knee and the position where I have the seat where I would actually be able to drive it comfortably, which actually bodes well for me because, again, I'm about 6'1", so it is quite a nice little thing to have an extra bit of room here in the back. And as far as headroom goes, the headliner actually, as you can see, is raised up just a hair. I mean, I don't know how well you can see that, but it is raised up just a good bit. So that definitely does also bode well for those of us who are of a taller stature. Now, there is no trunk button or anything located down here, so you're gonna have to open the trunk via either the remote or just take the simplistic way, go back to the front, and pop the trunk from there. Now, in terms of trunk capacity, it's pretty much on par with the Chevrolet Malibu and the Cadillac CTS. As you can see, the opening isn't exactly the biggest thing in the world. I mean, I wouldn't want to shove a giant trunk back here, but as you can see, this one here has also had a WeatherTech floor mat thrown in, and also it does have 60/40 split fold seats, so you can shove something rather long in there, but I wouldn't recommend shoving something rather tall. Still though, it'll accommodate for a couple of suitcases, a couple of duffel bags, and so on, so you can still use this car for maybe, you know, taking all of your stuff to work or whatever. And again, the trunk closes with a nice soft thunk. Now again, I'm not the salesperson with all of these cars here, so if you want to find out any more information about this particular vehicle or any of the others that are in Humble Hyundai's inventory, you can come visit us on location on Texas Interstate 59 North, or you can come visit us on humblehyundai.com, which is our website, and you can pretty much pick from your choice of all of our inventory straight from there. Now, as far as getting the seats down, as you can see, there's little straps here. The seats just kind of come up. I guess they fold forward like that. Oh, there it goes. Forgot this part doesn't come away. But as you can see, once you fold the seat down, I mean, there's not a whole ton of room, and it doesn't fold completely and totally flat. There still is a little bit of play in the seat. Other than that, though, it's not as hard as you might think. So it does still accommodate for even the best of people. I do love the way this car sounds though when you close the door. Just listen when you close it. It doesn't even sound harsh or anything. I mean, it does sound a little bit kind of, I don't know, metallic, but when you close that door, now close the rear door. A lot softer for the rear doors, so definitely some decent build quality for General Motors within the past decade. Now, even though the driver's seat is actually power adjustable, the passenger seat over here is manually adjustable. So you've got your manual distance control, manual recline via this large lever here. No height adjustment as far as I know, but it does also have the seat heating function as well. Again, quite an odd place for that to be, as you can see. But overall, I mean, I absolutely love the seating position in this car, and getting in to the passenger side of the vehicle, this is where you're going to have a lot of room. I can stretch out almost like I'm sitting on a couch. And as you can see, once I sit in the passenger seat, the small icon appears up here at the top of the dashboard. There are weight sensors that are in this seat. So when there is somebody sitting here, if they don't put their seatbelt on, the car will continue to chime as if the driver had sat in his or her seat and not put their seatbelt on. So it's relatively the same thing. As you can see, it's flashing away at us up here. Now, again, like I mentioned with the doors, the dashboard here, it's firm, but it does give. I mean, it does feel like it has a good bit of padding and foam behind it, which is definitely not a bad thing whatsoever. And it's also accented by this painted silver trim here with a nice small little lashing of chrome just to separate everything else out. Sorry, I had a wasp fly right in my face right there. That scared me. So anyways, I'll go ahead and close the door, keep him out. I do not like wasps at all. But anyways, as far as everything else goes, you can see sitting right here, got your owner's manual and everything else. Go ahead and roll up the window on the other side too. And as you can see, you just got all your reading materials and so on. And after that, no harm done. And it's also pretty deep as well, as you can see. Well guys, I hope you've all enjoyed this well-rounded walkthrough of a 2008 Saturn Aura XR with the 3.6 liter direct injected V6. I hope you guys have enjoyed this tour as much as I have, and if you want to find out any more information, just see all the information in the description box below. This includes Humble Hyundai's sales direct hotline, and also the website in which you can check out all of Humble Hyundai's inventory. Again guys, this has been Grand Prix GTP02 here up at Humble Hyundai, and I hope to see y'all again very soon. Take care everybody, and have a good one.